Welcome to Old Man Sports Talk. I'm your host, Old Man Nate, and it's college football time. I hope you guys are ready. I know I am. So, last year, Old Man Nate picked 9 out of 12 teams correct to make the college football playoff, including Boise State, of course, Notre Dame, and SMU. Most people did not even have SMU even thought of, but old man Nate did. He also picked 5 out of 8 Power 4 teams to play in their conference championship correctly. We will get to all of those in just a second, but let's start with the ACC. And last year I had SMU and Miami playing for the ACC championship. I had Clemson just on the outside, but Clemson did make the ACC championship. So did SMU. Miami was the one that was left out, and I had Miami winning the ACC last year, but instead Clemson won it. I did have all three of those teams making the playoff last year, but Miami got left out. Clemson still made it. SMU still made it. But so I had those right on making the playoff, but I did not have, and I had SMU right making the ACC championship. Did not have Clemson right though as winning or even making the championship. This year, and now I'm not going to do a thorough breakdown like I did last year. I'm only going to name the teams that I have, talk a little bit about the teams that have a chance to win the conference. We will do our playoff breakdown either tomorrow or Monday. I'll release that either tomorrow or Monday. We will announce our top 25 today on this show, but we will not do the playoff until tomorrow or Sunday or Monday. Tomorrow and Sunday. So the teams for the ACC, I think, have a chance to play in the ACC championship this year are Clemson. I think Clemson is really, really loaded again this year. A better team than they had last year. Much improved. Got Kaepernick back. Even though they lost Will Shipley, I think they're still going to be much, much better. Defensive line is loaded. Miami, they got Carson Beck transfer from Georgia. I don't think he's near as good as Cam Ward is, but I do think Miami will be in the picture. Duke, I think, is going to be improved. They got a transfer quarterback. I forget who it is, but yeah, I think they'll be a good. Florida State is going to be much improved from last year. I think they won only 2 games last year, and they're going to be much improved. And Pittsburgh will be in the hunt as well. I have, though, Clemson and Miami both playing for the ACC championship. I have them both going undefeated in conference play. We'll see if I'm right about that. But I have Clemson beating Miami in the ACC championship. In the Big 12, now last year in the Big 12, I was wrong on the Big 12, but I had Iowa State making the Big 12 championship, and they did, so I was right about that. But I had them losing in the championship to Utah, and Utah had a bad year. They didn't end up. I believe their quarterback ended up not coming back, so that hurt them. And the surprise team was Arizona State. Arizona State, who not only myself but a lot of people across the country had it finishing last in the Big 12, ended up winning the Big 12 and making it to the college football playoff. I had Utah last year making the playoff, and of course they didn't. They didn't even compete for the Big 12 championship, and they got left out. Arizona State was the only team to make it to the playoff from the Big 12, and they held their own against Texas. They went overtime, and they lost. Scadabo's gone though, so how big of an issue is that going to be? He was their main offensive guy last year. So I think that they're going to play a role in this year, but we'll see how they do. This year, I believe Baylor is going to be much improved. Texas Tech went out and spent the bank to improve their team. Arizona State, I do think, will be back to have a chance to defend their conference championship, and Iowa State, I think, again, will have a chance to make a case for the championship. So those four teams are the four I think will fight it out to the end, and the two I have from the Big 12 playing in the Big 12 championship is Baylor and Arizona State, and I have Arizona State not defending their Big 12 championship. Instead, I have Baylor winning the Big 12 championship and both teams finishing conference play at 8-1, but Baylor being the Big 12 champ. In the Big 10 now, I had Oregon playing, I believe I had them playing Ohio State, but it was a thing where I actually had them playing in the conference championship. I actually switched it out at the last minute. I originally had Penn State, which is who did play for the Big Ten championship, but I switched it out at the last minute because I had Ohio State beating Penn State in the regular season. That's why I switched it out. But Penn State was the one that actually got to go and play in the Big Ten championship. I was correct on who the Big Ten champion was or would be, and that was Oregon, as Oregon did beat Penn State and be the Big Ten champion. I was also correct on having Oregon as the number one overall seed going into the playoffs. So not only did I get 9 correct, there was actually 4 or 5 teams I got the correct seeding on, and Oregon was one of them. I think it was 4. Okay. All right. This year, I think Penn State's going to compete again for the Big Ten championship. I also have Oregon, again, right up there competing to defend their title. Illinois is going to be a surprise team in the Big Ten this year. I got them having a chance at the Big Ten championship. Michigan and Ohio State, of course, will both be up there again. And then also another surprise team in Nebraska. All of those teams, I think, will make a run for the Big Ten championship. I have rematch from last year, Penn State and Oregon playing for the Big Ten championship, but I got Penn State winning this year. So I got Penn State, or both of them making it 8-1 to the conference. I got Penn State's only loss coming to Ohio State in the regular season, but I got Ohio State losing a couple games this year, so that's why that they will not play in the Big Ten championship. SEC was the only one I got 100% right last year. I had Georgia and Texas playing for the SEC championship. I was right on that. And I had Georgia beating Texas in the SEC championship, and I was right on that. This year, I believe Alabama is going to be loaded and ready and hungry and ready to go. I also have Texas A&M and Florida. Florida's got a really, really tough schedule, but I think that they can skate through it. I do not have Georgia as a team that looking for the SEC championship. They definitely could, but they're not in my top 4 teams. That 4th team who I haven't mentioned yet is my Oklahoma Sooners. And here's why. I know everybody's going to laugh right now when I hear that, because we went 6-7 last year, only won 2 conference games last year. So how in the heck do you have your Oklahoma Sooners ahead of Georgia? Well, here's why. The Oklahoma Sooners had lost their top 5 wide receivers for all but 2 games last year. And they only got 1 receiver back in those 2 games. They also, their offensive coordinator, their brand new offensive coordinator they hired to start last year, was horrible. Play calling was horrible. I was at games against Houston where they only won like 13-10 or 12-10 or something like that. That, you know, getting arguments with OU fans who all was like, "Oh, we're okay. Offensive coordinator's okay." No, we weren't. I knew then we were horrible. Our offensive line was banged up all season, so we couldn't get no cohesion together, and we were playing a lot of young guys, and then they weren't very good. So that in turn had a paranoid quarterback, of Jackson Arnold, and it was so bad against Tennessee where he was just he was bad. We only lost by 10 to Tennessee, and if we had a composed quarterback, we may have won that ball game. So that against Missouri, when he finally did get a little composed, he turned the ball over, fumbled the ball at the end of the game that gave Missouri the win. You know, that's another loss we should have had. We beat Alabama. We looked really good against Alabama. That shows our potential. Now, Jackson Arnold is no longer here, but in my opinion, we have an even better quarterback in John Mateer. I think he is going to lead the Sooners to the SEC potential at the SEC championship this year and a chance at the playoffs. So, yes, that's why I have Oklahoma. When you've improved and you're not going into the season injured, you got a new offensive coordinator who, by the way, coached your brand new quarterback last year. I just really think we're going to be better off. And our defense, yes, we lost Stutzman. Yes, we lost Bowman. But we got returning guys that played a lot last year, too. So be on the look. That's why Phil Steele has them the #1 surprise team going into the season, because they are going to be better offensively, and their defense is just as good as last year. So anyhow, playing in the SEC championship, I have Alabama and Florida. Just talking all about my Sooners. I don't have them in there, but I got them in the hunt. They'll make a case for it. They'll have a chance. Okay. I got Alabama actually going undefeated in conference play. So that means I got them beating my Sooners. Okay. And then I got Florida going 7-1. I forget who I had that one loss to, but I think they'll have a chance. So we'll see. Now I'm going to list my top 25, and throughout the season, every once in a while I'll drop a poll, probably every couple of weeks before the college football rankings come out, playoff rankings come out, and it'll probably be every week then. At 25, I've got Iowa State. At 24, I got Pittsburgh. 23, I got Florida State. 22, I got Auburn. Yes, Jackson Arnold at Auburn. I think they'll be just fine with him. Jackson Arnold was not really an issue at Oklahoma. Yes, he was paranoid. He made a lot of mistakes because he was getting hit on every play. But I do think he's a good quarterback. And I think with a better offensive line and a new system, he'll be just fine at Auburn. 21, Utah. 20, Michigan. My Sooners get them week 2. We'll see how good both OU and Michigan are that week. 19, I got Louisville. 18, Illinois. I told you Illinois is going to be a surprise team for the Big Ten. 17, Arizona State. 16, Texas Tech. 15, Baylor. 14, Indiana. 13, Miami. 12, Oregon. 11, Texas A&M. 10, LSU. 9, Oklahoma. 8, Ohio State. 7, Notre Dame. 6, Florida. 5, Georgia. 4, Alabama. 3, Texas. 2, Clemson. And number 1, Penn State. So that's Old Man Nate's top 25 to start the season. Again, every couple of weeks we'll release a new one. You guys tune in every week to watch the show, and we will see you next time right here on Old Man Sports Talk.